Am I the a-hole for ruining my best friend's wedding over a secret? I, 27F, had been best friends with Lena, 28F, since college. We were inseparable. When she met her fiancé, Daniel, 30M, I was genuinely happy for her, until I found out something that made my stomach drop. 2 months before their wedding, I was out with some coworkers at a bar when I spotted a familiar face. Daniel. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe he was out with friends. But then, I saw him kissing another woman. Not just a peck, but full on making out. I froze. My brain tried to make excuses. Maybe it was an old friend? A weird misunderstanding? But no, they were acting like a full-blown couple. Laughing, touching, completely wrapped up in each other. I took out my phone and snapped a picture. I didn't know what to do with it, but I knew I needed proof. The next morning, I debated telling Lena. This was her wedding. What if this was just a one-time mistake? What if it was something she already knew about but chose to ignore? If I told her, I'd be the one ruining everything. So, I decided to confront Daniel first. I met up with him, picture in hand, and told him he needed to come clean to Lena. He went pale. At first, he tried to deny it, but when I showed him the photo, his face hardened. "You don't understand," he said. "This isn't what you think." I demanded an explanation. That's when he hit me with something I never expected. The woman wasn't a random affair. It was his ex-wife. Yeah, turns out, Daniel had been married before. Something Lena never mentioned, meaning he had either never told her or she was keeping it secret. But the worst part? He admitted that he was still in love with her. "I love Lena," he insisted. "But I don't know if I can go through with the wedding." I was floored. He was literally planning to marry my best friend in a few weeks, knowing he still had feelings for someone else. I gave him an ultimatum. "Tell Lena the truth, or I will." He begged me to stay out of it, swearing he'd figure it out, that he'd break it off with his ex quietly. But something in my gut told me he was lying. So, I told Lena. I sat her down and explained everything. His ex, the kiss, his doubts. At first, she didn't believe me. Then I showed her the picture, and her whole world shattered. She called off the wedding the next day. Now, Lena isn't speaking to me. She told me she wasn't mad at Daniel, but at me, for dropping this on her so close to the wedding. She said I humiliated her, made a private problem public, and took away her chance to handle things on her own terms. Our friends are split. Some say I did the right thing, others say I destroyed something that wasn't my place to destroy. Daniel also won't talk to me. From what I've heard, he's back in touch with his ex. So now I'm sitting here, wondering, did I ruin my best friend's life, or save her from making a huge mistake? Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for showing up late? I, 27M, was invited to my best friend Jake's, 28M, wedding. He asked me to be a groomsman months ago, and of course, I said yes. The problem? Jake's fiancée, Lisa, has always hated me. I have no idea why. I've always been nice to her, but she acts like I ruin her life just by existing. The wedding day comes, and I'm supposed to be there at 2 p.m. for photos. But that morning, my car won't start. I try everything, jumping it, calling a tow, even begging my neighbor for a ride, but nothing works. I finally get an Uber, but traffic is brutal. I end up arriving at 2:45 p.m., late, but not missing the wedding itself. Jake pulls me aside and says it's fine, but Lisa? She's fuming. She says I ruined the photos, and disrespected their big day. Later, I find out she told people I was late on purpose because I'm jealous of their relationship. I apologize to Jake, but Lisa won't let it go. Now I'm hearing from mutual friends that she wants to cut me out of their lives entirely. Am I the a-hole for showing up late, even though it wasn't my fault? Am I the a-hole for bringing my own food to a dinner party? So, my friend Emily, 30F, invited me, 31M, to this fancy dinner party she was hosting. She spent days planning the menu, talking about how much effort she put into it. Thing is, I'm a very picky eater. I knew I wouldn't like most of what she was making, so I brought my own meal, a burger and fries from my favorite fast food place. I didn't make a big deal about it, just sat down and started eating. Emily looked offended and asked why I didn't even try her food. I told her, I didn't want to waste it if I didn't like it. She got all upset, saying it was disrespectful and embarrassing in front of her other guests. Now she's mad and says I was rude, but I don't see the issue. I wasn't expecting her to accommodate me, I just handled it myself. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for walking out on my date? I, 27M, had been chatting with this woman, Lisa, 25F, on a dating app for a few weeks. She seemed great, funny, smart, and into the same nerdy movies as me. We finally decided to meet up at a nice Italian restaurant. The night started fine. She looked just like her pictures, always a relief, and we had easy conversation. But then, things took a turn. First, she called the waiter, servant, as a joke. Cringe, but okay. Then, she started talking about astrology and said, "Oh, you're Leo?" That explains so much, while shaking her head like I had personally insulted her ancestors. But the final straw? When our food arrived, she took a giant forkful of my pasta without asking, made a face, and said, "Wow, I wouldn't have ordered this." Then she pushed her own plate toward me and said, "Here, you can have mine." I don't like it. I was stunned. So, I did what any sane person would do. I stood up, put down enough cash to cover my meal, and said, "Enjoy your dinner." Then I walked out. I got a bunch of angry texts calling me rude and dramatic, but honestly, was I the a-hole? Or did I just escape a lifetime of unsolicited food theft and horoscope judgment? Am I the a-hole for leaving my friend at the bar? I, 28M, took my friend Jake, 28M, out for drinks to cheer him up after a breakup. At first, it was fun, but then he kept whining about his ex, totally killing the vibe. I told him, "Dude, no girl wants to hear you mope all night." He got quiet, but whatever. I ended up hitting it off with someone, and when she invited me back to her place, I wasn't gonna say no. I asked Jake if he was good, he mumbled something, so I left. Turns out, his phone was dead, and he had no ride home. Now he's mad and says I ditched him. But come on, he's an adult. He should have figured it out, right? Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister's fiancé the truth about her son? So, I, 26F, have a sister, Ellie, 28F, who's always been the golden child. She's got a successful career, a beautiful house, and the perfect fiancé, James, 30M. My parents adore her, and it's always been clear that they think she can do no wrong. But there's something about Ellie that's always seemed off to me, and recently I discovered what it was. A few weeks ago, I was going through some old papers in the attic when I found something that didn't belong to me, a paternity test result. At first, I thought it was some kind of mistake, but when I looked closer, I saw that it was addressed to Ellie. The test confirmed that her son, Ryan, 4, was not James's biological child. Instead, it was from another man, a guy who had been a close family friend for years. I was shocked. I had no idea that Ellie had been hiding this from everyone, especially from James, who had always treated Ryan as his own son. She had never mentioned anything about a paternity test or the fact that another man was Ryan's father. I confronted Ellie about it, and she broke down. She told me the truth. Ryan's real father is the family friend, Mark, 35. The two of them had an affair years ago, but Ellie had kept it a secret because she was scared of ruining her perfect image and her relationship with James. She'd let James believe that Ryan was his child, even though she knew the truth. I was torn. On one hand, I understood how complicated and painful this situation was for Ellie, but on the other hand, I couldn't just sit back and watch her lie to James, especially when he was so involved in Ryan's life. The worst part? James was about to propose to Ellie, and I knew that he had no idea that Ryan wasn't his biological son. After much back and forth, I made a decision. I messaged James and told him I needed to speak with him privately. When we met up, I hesitated for a moment, but I knew it had to be done. I explained everything. How Ellie had kept the truth from him and how Ryan's real father was someone else entirely. I gave him the paternity test results and told him that it was up to him how to handle things, but he needed to know the truth. James was devastated. He felt completely betrayed, and honestly, I don't blame him. He'd raised Ryan as his own, and now this entire foundation of trust and love was crumbling before him. He told Ellie that he couldn't marry her and walked away from their relationship. Ellie was furious with me, calling me a traitor and accusing me of ruining her life. Our parents are also mad at me. They say I had no right to get involved and that I should have let Ellie handle things herself. Now, I'm questioning if I did the right thing. I know I did what I thought was best for James, but part of me feels guilty for tearing apart her life. Am I the a-hole for telling James the truth about Ryan's paternity? Am I the a-hole for exposing my friend's secret after he screwed me over? I, 28M, have a best friend, Luke, 30M, who I've known since college. A couple of years ago, I lent him a large sum of money when he hit a rough patch, trusting he'd pay me back soon. But months went by, and every time I asked, he made excuses while I noticed him spending money on dinners, gadgets, and trips. A few weeks ago, I found out the truth in the most humiliating way. I went to his place and saw his computer open to a group chat with people sharing extremely specific, embarrassing fetishes. He had been paying thousands of dollars to engage in online roleplays and send intimate photos to strangers. Worse, he was hiding this from his girlfriend, who thought he was just busy with work. I was furious. He lied about needing money, then used it for something so degrading. So, I went to our mutual friends and told them everything. I figured they deserved to know what he'd been hiding. Luke is livid, calling me a traitor and saying I ruined his life. Some friends agree with me, others think I should have kept it private and let him handle it on his own. Am I the a-hole for exposing his secret?